Hey guys, it's KayBeast, and for this week's art video, I am playing with my new Posca paint markers. These have been the big art trend on Twitter for the past, I don't know, 2 months or something. A whole bunch of artists I follow have been using them, and they looked like a lot of fun. And I really wanted to get my hands on them, and then I wound up getting my very first check from Google AdSense, which was perfect timing, and spent all of it on art supplies and convention supplies, and now I have things to play with. I'm very happy. So yeah, I got a 24 set of their fine point. They have sizes that are like 1M, 3M, 5M, and the fine points are the 3M. And they're pretty standard bullet nib. You do have to pump them a little bit to get the actual paint flowing, but then once it does, it flows very nicely, and the paint is actually pretty opaque, and it dries matte, and it looks really, and there's a lot of bright colors, and I was very excited about playing with them. So yeah, I will say this about the colors, the opacity's good, but the lighter colors, sometimes you gotta do a couple of layers, especially the white. When I did that black swatch, the white on the black on the swatch sheet, I had to do 2 layers of white to get it to really cover completely. And in a couple of test doodles that I did before doing this video, I found that the yellows did not cover well over graphite pencil. So if you do like your line art or a sketch before you do a big piece in graphite pencil, it's not going to cover it, and the graphite kind of bleeds a little bit in the paint because I think these are water-based or whatever. So that was a problem that I ran into, but I wound up coming up with a solution to that. I'm doing my line art here on just regular computer paper. I've marked off the edges of the size of my final paper that I'm using. And yes, I'm doing fan art of Spyro the Dragon because the remaster trailer got released 2 weeks ago, and I have been obsessing only a lot for the past 2 weeks. So I decided to draw Spyro for this. So I did my sketch on computer paper, and then I transfer it to Bristol board using a non-photo blue Coal Erase pencil. It's the lightest color pencil that I have that's still erasable, and I found that when I used that, it didn't show through any of the colors that I used. It was light enough that it was light enough it didn't show through, but I could still kind of see it enough to do my work. And I like to use that when I'm not sure how well things will show up, and if I can't erase well, I have a whole pack of these that I use for that. So yeah, the paint lays down pretty smooth for the most part, and it does dry very matte, but they don't layer well, is something that I noticed. It eats up the paper pretty quickly. At least it did on my test paintings that I did earlier. I did a couple of small drawings on my watercolor paper, the Canson XL 300 GSM watercolor paper, and I got a lot of pilling on that. It might have been because of the paint, it might have been because of the bullet nib, I'm not really sure. So I tried on Bristol board, which seems to be the most recommended paper on Twitter. I just went through a bunch of Twitter feeds of people using the pens, and that seems to be a good choice, and I did notice an improvement when I used it on this. I have the Strathmore Bristol board. It's the yellow cover, so I think it's a 300 series, and I used the smooth one. But yeah, because they don't layer too well, and I've noticed they eat up the paper once you've layered them too much, I basically mapped out where the shadows and the highlights would be in the sketch itself, so that I could it sort of wound up being like a paint by numbers kind of thing, where I just filled in the sections with the color that I had chosen for it. Because these don't blend like the way Copics do, because it's a different kind of paint. So I basically did a cell shading thing here, and I waited for sections to dry before coloring next to it, because I did notice a bit of bleeding if it was still wet. But it dries pretty quickly, actually, so that was good to note. I did notice that the actual paint, there were some sections where it looked a bit streaky. Not like, not in the way that you could see the paper through it, but like you could really see the strokes from the bullet nib. It looked a little rough. And I think that was mostly due to the fact that I was coloring in a large area very quickly, maybe. But you don't really notice it on camera. Like, I took a couple of pictures to show my friends when I finished it, and you couldn't see the streakiness at all, but it was very apparent in real life. So that's kind of good news. That roughness doesn't seem to photograph well, so that could be good if you're trying to make reproductions of your artwork, but the original might look a little weird. So, you know, that's something to think about. But yeah, I had a lot of fun working with them. I don't know if I'm going to do a whole bunch of final, like, full illustrations and just the paint markers again, because it was a little weird to work with, because I had limited size, like, limited control, because I've only got the one size of bullet nib. But I can definitely see myself using these with other mediums to add embellishments. I think they could be really good for adding details on top of watercolor and gouache. So I'm definitely going to try that out. Like I said, they do make other sizes of these pens. They make a 5M, which is broad nibbed, I think. And they make a 1M, which is their extra fine point, which I think will be useful for very small detail. I had a struggle doing small spaces with these. And as a result, I actually wound up doing my final line art using my Pentel Pocket Brush pen, because my black paint marker was just not fine enough to get the detail that I wanted. So I used that instead. I did try using other kinds of brush pen on my other sketches, and I found that a felt tip brush pen did not really lay on the paint that well. So it definitely, like, the actual bristle brush tip was better for laying opaque lines on top of the paint. But that's probably like a trial and error thing you'd have to do if that's something you want to do. Or you could just get the fine tip in the black or whatever it is you want to do. Or not do line art at all. It kind of depends on your style. But I personally felt that it needed line art to really look finished. So that's what I did. But I had a lot of fun working on it, and I especially had a lot of fun drawing Spyro, who I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. And I have been, like I said, very excited about this remaster since it got announced. I've actually been streaming Spyro on my Twitch channel for the past 2 weeks. I lost my mind when the trailer came out. I literally teared up. Like, that's how excited I was. It was kind of ridiculous. And then I immediately jumped on Twitch and played the first game in 5 hours. So, like, I was excited. And I've been playing the game Sundays and Wednesdays ever since. I'm on Spyro 3 now. I just started it in my last stream. And I'll be playing it again next Wednesday. Not Sunday because I'm out of town. I'm going to see Todrick Hall in concert, actually, with my friends and my girlfriend. But next Wednesday, I will be playing Spyro 3 some more if you guys want to come check that out and, you know, freak out over the remaster with me, because that's kind of just what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks, basically. But I definitely want to do more Spyro fan art, especially once it gets closer to the remaster release, and do, like, some big illustration. I think could be a lot of fun. But I thought his simple character design would be easy to do in this new medium, and also because I'm excited. Like, I think I've mentioned that, like, enough times. But yeah, these paints are definitely fun. These markers are definitely fun to use. It cost about $50 for the full set of 24, and that winds up equaling to about $2 a marker, which isn't terrible. But it is a lot of money up front. So they do make smaller sets of like 6 pens or 6 markers in a pack. So that might be easier to try out than buying the whole set. But I had money to spare, so I just got them. But yeah, so here's the final drawing. It was a fun little experiment in a different style, and I'm definitely gonna have to experiment with these markers some more. But yeah, that does it for this week's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!